Hello everybody. Hope you all are doing really well. This is CA Supreet Agrawal, your faculty for ACCA, AA, AAA and law subjects. And my dear friends, today is a very special session on chapter number 19, 20 and 21 that we are going to solve the questions of these three chapters in detail today. And my dear friends, I want to understand whether I am audible and visible to all of you clearly or not before we start the session. So please confirm me on the chat box if I am audible and visible clearly or not. Yes. I can check on my device that I am audible and visible. I am just waiting for your confirmation. Yes. Very good evening. Very good evening. Very good evening. Very good evening. Great. Perfect. 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 Okay. Okay. That's great. So very good evening everybody. Hope you all are doing really well. My name is CA Supreet Agrawal and I'm your faculty for ACCA, AA, AAA and law subjects. And my dear friends, today we are going to solve the questions from chapter number 19, 20 and 21. And in this particular session, we are going to ensure that you complete the questions at least from ACCA Study Up for these three chapters so that you get a lot of comfort on this. My dear friends, whenever you have any query, any discussion point, what you can do is you can let me know on the chat box. I would be happy to discuss it with you once we have completed that part that we are discussing that time. Now, the structure is going to be the similar to our earlier sessions that I'm going to read the question first. I'm going to explain certain pointers if it is there. I'm going to make certain markings if required. And then I'm going to give you certain time to draft your answers. And once you have drafted your answer, then I'm going to explain the answer to you. And then we are going to go and read the answers in the suggested book also. Okay, so that is going to be the structure that we follow. Now, the first question from chapter number 19, which is audit sampling, is audit sampling is a technique for drawing conclusions about the characteristics of a population by testing a sample drawn from the population. Do we agree? Yes. Now describe the following. Describe the following. This is for 10 marks. This is for 10 marks. Describe the following. Non-statistical sampling and statistical sampling. That is 1 mark for each. So what you have to do is you have to define it in 2 to 3 lines, if possible with the example also. Then what is a representative sample? That also we have discussed during our lectures. Tolerable misstatement is something that we have discussed. Two methods of selecting a representative sampling, not a sample, a representative sample, that also we have discussed. And one selection method that is not suitable for statistical sampling. All of these things we have discussed directly as part of our concept lectures also. So I'm sure that you will be knowing the answer. Please take 2 to 3 minutes, draft your answer roughly, then we will be going and discussing about this particular point. And this is the only question that is available on the ACCA Study Hub for this particular chapter as well. Okay, so I hope this was a sufficient time. Now let's have a quick discussion about it. When we talk about non-statistical sampling, the keyword here is that the auditor uses their own judgment to select the samples. That is the core of the non-statistical sampling. In case of statistical sampling, there are two keywords that we need to remember, right? That it uses random methods, and second is use of probability theory that we have discussed. Then when we talk about the representative sample, then this is that particular sample which shows similar characteristics or similar attributes as to the population. So for example, there is a salary register. Then if we select one item that is representative, that has the similar characteristics to the entire population, then that would be called as a representative sample. So will a sales return have a similar characteristic to the sales records? No, right? That is a different population. Then tolerable misstatement, this is the maximum amount of misstatement or errors that an auditor is ready to accept without concluding that the entire population is materially misstated. Then two methods of selecting a representative sample could be random selection method or could be any of the methods other than the haphazard selection or the block selection method, right? So it could be monetary unit sampling also. Now, one selection method that is not suitable for statistical sampling are these two only: haphazard selection and then block selection. These two are non-statistical methods. Let's discuss about it. So non-statistical and statistical sampling. Non-statistical sampling uses the auditor's judgment to select the number of items to be tested, which items to be tested, and to interpret the results as well. A statistical sampling requires random sample selection and uses probability theory like we have discussed. Representative sample is one whose characteristics are the same as or similar to the characteristics of the population as a whole. Then tolerable misestimate. See, everywhere there is an example so that you do not lose marks. Sir, is this required in our answers as well? Yes, you need to mention the examples as well. Tolerable misstatement is the maximum misstatement that the auditor is prepared to accept in a sample and still conclude that the actual misstatement in the population does not exceed this, that is the population is non-materially misstated. Then methods of selecting a representative sample. So random selection requires the use of random number tables in order to select a representative sample. Interval or systematic selection involves taking every nth item, that is after every 20th, 30th, 10th item, right, starting at random. So that is why these two are representative sampling. So what are those methods which are not suitable for statistical sampling? That is, those are non-statistical methods. So those are haphazard selection and block selection like we have discussed. With this, we have completed the only question that is given on ACC study for chapter number 19. Now we can jump to chapter number 20, which is written representations. What we can do is we can jump to chapter number 20, which is written representations. The first question is Crichton Company. Okay, the first question is Crichton Company. This is an MCQ based question. Then after that, there is a question of Greenfields Company. Greenfields Company, this is a descriptive question, second question. And then there's a third question also, which is again a descriptive question. So sir, how many questions we are going to solve? We are going to solve all three questions. Okay, and then this particular chapter will get completed. Sir, are we going to solve all three? Yes, we are going to solve all three questions. Okay, so now let's discuss about this particular question. Let's discuss about this particular question. So this is the MCQ part question. Okay, this is the MCQ part question. You are the manager in charge of the audit of Crichton Company, a company which manufactures specialist cars for the film industry. Okay, so you are the manager in charge of the audit of Crichton Company, a company which manufactures specialist cars for the film industry. Okay, so film industry might be requiring some specialist cars also for their different scenes, different stunts and all. Audited revenue is 140 million. Oh my god, this is huge. And profit before income taxes of 7.5 million. Oh, only 5% approximately. Okay, all audit field work has been completed and it only remains for the auditor to obtain written representations from management. Oh, so this question looks from the written representation, right? It is from the written representation. See, okay. Now, what is written representation? We have already covered under ISA 580, right? Now, a review of the audit file has disclosed two outstanding points. Number one, legal claim, and number two, depreciation. Okay, in case of legal claim, the company is facing a legal claim from Lion Rose in respect of the supply of a defective car. Okay, so there must be some production house, some film industry company that is accusing the company of supplying what? A defective car. Following a board meeting, the directors of Crichton Company, that is our company, have counter argued that the specification was not sufficiently detailed. That is, the specification that was given by them was not sufficient. Lion Rose is seeking to claim $4 million for the cost of replacement car. $4 million, that's huge, my dear friends. If we take PBT, that is $7.5 million, then it's more than 50%. That's huge. Okay. Okay. And lost production time. Okay, Crichton companies solicitors are unable to determine the amount of a liability at the present time. My dear friends, solicitors are unable to determine the amount of liability. They are not sure. So we might have to take the provisions here, right? Now, depreciation. Depreciation of specialist production equipment has been calculated at 10% on a reducing balance basis. That we know reducing balance. The audit senior who is new to the audit feels that the depreciation expense is understated. Okay, the policy is consistent with prior years for which audit opinions were unmodified. Let's read it again. The audit senior who is new to the audit senior is the new person, feels that the depreciation expense is understated, that is, it is reduced from the actual amount. The policy is consistent with prior years for which audit opinions were unmodified. So there were no audit modified opinions, and it is consistent. The policy is also consistent. And other companies in the same industry and sale of old equipment showed negligible profit or loss on sale. Okay. In the course of your review, the audit senior mentions a verbal representation from management that a material non-current assets is not impaired. This is a verbal representation from management that a material non-current asset is not impaired. However, no independent evidence is available to confirm this. Oh my god, that is a huge problem. Now let's discuss about the few MCQs over here. Okay, so let's jump on to the first MCQ first. We'll solve one each. We'll take 1 minute to solve each MCQ. Okay. Which of the following audit procedures is likely to provide the auditor with the most reliable audit evidence regarding the claim? Most reliable audit evidence regarding the claim. Most reliable. So we have to remember that Witco written over oral, right? Then independent over dependent, directly obtained, right? Controls over the process and original, right? So which of the following audit procedure is likely to provide the auditor with the most reliable? Review the minutes of the board to confirm the validity of the Crichton company's counterclaim. Review correspondence between Crichton company and its lawyers regarding the likely outcome of the case. Okay. Request a written representation from management supporting their assertion that the claim will not be successful. Okay. And send an inquiry letter to Crichton company's lawyers to obtain their view whether the claim will more likely than not be successful. See, generally we say that external confirmation is the most reliable form of evidence because it is written, it is directly obtained, it is generally in original format also, it is independent source also, right? So take 1 minute, maximum 30 seconds to 1 minute, and tell me what should be the answer for this. Do let me know in comments what should be the answer for this. Yes, do let me know in comments what should be the answer for this. According to you, what should be the answer for this? What should be the answer for this? Yes, what should be the answer for this? Generally, we say that anything that is in the form of external confirmation, that is most reliable. So here, only one particular point tells us that this is external confirmation. So option D should be correct, right? Now, second, identify by clicking on the relevant box. In the ACC startup, there are boxes available in here, whether each of the two outstanding matters should be included in the written representation from management. Whether each of the two outstanding matters should be included in the written representation. Tell me, which one should be excluded, which one should be included? See, in case of depreciation, there is nothing that tells us that this is a very critical point for the management to confirm, right? Because everything is related to the previous year, nothing is material over here. So this should be excluded and this should be included as per me. Okay, correct? Any queries over here? Any queries over here? Yes, any queries over here? Yes, any queries over here? No? Okay. Now let's talk about question number 3. Which three of the following additional matters should be included in Crichton company's written representation from management? Which three of the following additional matters should be included in Crichton company's written representation from management? Which three of the following additional matters? So number 1, there were no irregularities involving management or employees that could have a material effect on the financial statements. Should there be that? Okay. There were no irregularities involving management. Which one? Depreciation point. Okay. See, when we talk about this depreciation point, you're talking about this one. Okay. So when we talk about this depreciation point, why it is not made part of the written representation because there is no special point over here. See, depreciation was calculated at 10% on reducing balance method. Audit senior who is new to the audit feels that depreciation expenses understated, but they are new also. And we have also checked with prior years, there were no unmodified opinion. There was unmodified opinion, that is, there were no matters that were raised regarding the depreciation expense, and everything is consistent with the last year also. And other companies in the same industry and sales of old equipment show negligible profit or loss on sale. That is, when we go for after depreciation amount, that is the realizable value of that particular asset, the residual value of that particular asset, that is itself matching with the sales value at that particular time. So there is no particular evidence regarding this that there could be some matter that needs representation from management, and that is why we do not need to take any representation from the management. Yes, understood? Just in case if there's any query, please feel free to let me know. Yes, please tell me. Okay, got it. Perfect. Now let's go to question number 3 again. Okay, so which 3 of the following additional matters should be included in the company's representation letter? Number 1, there were no irregularities involving management or employees that could have a material effect on the financial statement. Do we need to take it? Yes. Then all books of accounts and supporting documents have been made available to the auditor. Very important. The financial statements are free from material misstatement including omissions. Oh my god, this is also important. So 3 options are done. Now let's see D and D. Okay. Adjustments and disclosures of events subsequent to the date of the financial statements have been made. Oh my god, this is also true. Significant deficiencies in internal controls have been corrected. This also seems true. So out of these 5, you have to select 3 options. Tell me which 3 you will select. Tell me which 3 you will select. Yes. Tell me which 3 you will select. Do let me know on the chat box. Yes. Yes, tell me which 3 you will select, and this is a star mark point also. A lot of students make the mistake over here. Tell me which 3 you will select. Tell me which 3 you will select. Yes, yes, tell me which 3 you will select. Yes, tell me, tell me, tell me. सही और गलत डज नॉट मैटर. सबसे पहले आंसर बताओ, क्या लगता है? चलो एक एक करके बात करते हैं. There were no irregularities involving management or employees that could have a material effect on the financial statement. क्या ये written representation का point है? Yes है. All books of accounts and supporting documents have been made available to the auditor. क्या ये written representation का point है? Yes. जहां जहां मैनेजमेंट की इंटेंशन चेक करनी होती है ना, वहां वहां रिटर्न रिप्रेजेंटेशन का पॉइंट होता ही है. ऐसा एक आप थंब रूल बना सकते हो अपने लिए. ठीक है. Now the financial statements are free from material misstatements. From material है या immaterial? Oh my god, ये तो immaterial misstatements है including omissions. That is why ये तो गलत हो गया. समझ रहे हो? ये गलत हो गया. Then adjustments and disclosures of events subsequent to the date of the financial statements have been made. Yes, very important. क्योंकि हमें चेक करना है ना मैनेजमेंट का इंटेंशन क्या है यहाँ पर. आखिरी वाला have been corrected. दोस्तों ये वर्ड गलत हो जाएगा, इसकी वजह से गलत हो जाएगा. सो द फाइनल आंसर इज ए, बी एंड डी. क्या है फाइनल आंसर? ए, बी एंड डी। समझ आया आप लोगों को? जल्दी से चैट बॉक्स पर बताइए। परफेक्ट। चलो आगे बढ़ते हैं क्वेश्चन नंबर 4 की तरफ। फॉर व्हाट रीजन शुड द ऑडिटर सीक रिटन कंफर्मेशन ऑफ मैनेजमेंट्स वर्बल रिप्रेजेंटेशंस? ओके, फॉर व्हाट रीजन should the auditor seek written confirmation of management's verbal representation? Why we take it in the written format and why we do not expect the verbal representations only? So to ensure that the directors formally accept their responsibility for providing such information to the auditor. Okay, to enable the auditor to escape legal liability for any misstatements in the accounts? No, does not seem true. To provide evidence that the directors have kept proper accounting records? No, that is also not true. To reduce the extent of the alternative procedures which the auditor would otherwise have to undertake? Oh, no, but this is not a substitute for other audit procedures. So tell me, which one do you think is correct? Which one do you think is correct? Which one do you think is correct? To ensure that the directors formally accept their responsibility for providing such information to the auditor. Do you agree? Yes, the first one. Now let's go to the last MCQ. I think yes. Thank God we didn't see the answer. Okay, by mistake I scrolled a little bit more. Now the directors of Crichton Company refused to provide a written representation in relation to the impairment of the material asset. Refused to provide a written representation related to the impairment of the material asset. So it's a material asset and written representation is being refused for impairment. Okay. Which of the following best describes this refusal? It provides sufficient evidence that the financial statements are not presented fairly. No, just a refusal will not give you evidence regarding that. It is an illegal act by management and the directors. No, I don't think so. It is illegal. It is grounds for a modified opinion arising from a material misstatement. No, it is not from material misstatement. It is insufficient and inappropriate audit evidence, right? So it is grounds for a modified opinion due to insufficient audit evidence. Yes, this one is the correct option. Now let's check. So first one is D. First one is D. Yes, done. Second is excluded and then included. Excluded and then included. Correct. So second is also done. For third, ABD. ABD. Yes, done. It's a stomach question also. For fourth, the answer is A. So the answer is A. For fifth, it's D. So fifth is D. Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay. Now let's move forward to the second question, which is Greenfields Company. Which is Greenfields Company. This is going to be very, very important for all of you. Okay, Greenfields Company. Now, when we talk about Greenfields Company, what is more important for us to understand over here is that this is a little different question. This is a descriptive question, but particularly focusing towards written representation. So let us read the questions first, and then we will be going for it. Describe the audit procedures required in respect of accounting estimates. You tell me, is this having any relation with the case study? No, this does not have any relation with the case study, right? So that is very important. Now, for each of the two issues above, discuss the appropriateness of written representation as a form of audit evidence. Okay, tell me one thing. For each of the two issues above, that is the heading that is given over here. So you have to relate your answers with the case study. That is very important over here. Not just the appropriateness of written representation, why it is appropriate for the above two issues as well. Then describe additional procedures the auditor should now perform in order to reach a conclusion on the balance to be included in the financial statements. And then the final question is, the directors of Greenfields Company have decided not to provide the audit firm with a written representation for the warranty provision as they feel it is unnecessary. Explain the step the auditor of Greenfields Company should now take and implication of the refusal to provide the written representation for the auditor's report. Okay, so let's solve one by one. Describe the audit procedures required in terms of accounting estimates. Without reading the case study, please tell me the audit procedures that is required in respect of accounting estimates. You can relate it to the case study as well, but now let's discuss about the audit procedure only. Please take 3 to 4 minutes, draft your answer, then let me know once it's done. Okay. Yes, I hope this was a sufficient time. So when we discuss about the audit procedures required in respect of the accounting estimates, my dear friends, although our lecture from chapter 22 from 227 will throw much light on how do we need to design the audit procedures, but since this is a particular accounting estimate question, so let us discuss about it. If we have to decide the audit procedures, then we have to complete that ICAI ORR stage. This is about a concept. This is about accounting estimates. What if, sir, there was an example of accounting estimates, say depreciation. So along with ICAI ORR, you will also indulge the assertions, the existence, occurrence, completeness, rights and obligations, valuation, everything. Okay. So when it is about a concept, accounting estimates, how do you need to design your audit procedures? Let's discuss about it. Okay. When I talk about ICAI ORR, so something that you will inquire about, and generally your audit procedure should always start with the inquiry and should always end with the written representation. That is an unsaid rule in the case of audit answers. So inquire about what? Inquire the management about how do they calculate, how do they assign the accounting estimates, how do they evaluate it, and how do they get the data for it. Inquire about it. Okay. Then C as in confirmation. So if there are certain pointers for which you can take the confirmation, say if you can take a confirmation from any outside entity who is performing the, say, gratuity calculation for the company. Okay, payroll has been outsourced, the gratuity calculation, you can take a confirmation from them that the data that they have got and the data they have used is the same. You can take a confirmation. Okay. Analytical procedure, you can match financial as well as non-financial data, as in you can evaluate the average amount of gratuity per employee to the headcount also. That could also happen. Okay. So analytical review. Okay. Then again inspection, so you can inspect the supporting documents. Same case of gratuity, you can go for the employee master records, whether the master record salary and the salary that is used to calculate the gratuity is similar or not, right? Observation, you can observe whether the work, say if there's a procedure that every month end the data is shared by the salary person to the payroll person to the gratuity calculator, the actuary. So whether that data has been shared or not, you can obtain the emails. Then recalculate, you can perform a recalculation of, say, addition, deletion, a casting check over the work that has been done by the actuary. That you can do audit procedures, right? So let's check the answer for this. So this question is for only 5 marks, but when you will read the answer, there could be many more pointers that could be mentioned. Do we need to mention all the pointers? No, you need to mention the 5 pointers only with 1 to 2 liners of explanation. Okay. So inquire the management how the accounting estimate is made, like we have discussed. Determine whether events occurring up to the date of the auditor's report provide audit evidence regarding the accounting estimate or not. Review the method of measurement used and assess the reasonableness of the assumptions made, whether the assumption that has been made, because the calculation has been made on certain assumptions, whether the whether those assumptions are reasonable or not. Then test the operating effectiveness of the controls over how management made the accounting estimate. Develop an expectation of the possible estimate or a range of amounts to evaluate management's estimate. Review the judgments and decisions made by management in the making of the accounting estimates. Then evaluate overall whether the accounting estimates in the financial statements are either reasonable or misstated. Obtain sufficient audit evidence, sufficient and appropriate audit evidence whether the disclosures in the financial statements related to accounting estimates and estimation uncertainty are reasonable. Obtain written representations from management and, where appropriate, those charged with governance, whether they believe significant assumptions used in making accounting estimates are reasonable. Now, when we discuss about receivable balance owning from yellow mix, we have to read the question first, right? The second question is, for each of the 2 issues above, discuss the appropriateness of written representation as a form of audit procedure, as a form of audit evidence, and describe additional procedures the auditor should now perform in order to reach a conclusion. Okay, so we have to understand and explain why written representation is an appropriate form of evidence, and then the additional procedures also. Let's read the case study now. Greenfields company specializes in manufacturing equipment which can help to reduce toxic emissions in the production of chemicals. Okay, the company has grown rapidly over the past 8 years, and this is due partly to the warranties that the company gives to its customers. Okay, so warranty is a very important point. It guarantees its products for 5 years, and if problems arise in the period, it undertakes to fix them. Okay, so 5 years, and provide a replacement product also. So this is a guarantee. Okay. Now you are the manager responsible for the audit of Greenfields company, and you are performing the final review stage of the audit and have come across the 2 issues. 2 issues are receivable balance owning from yellow mix company. Greenfield company has a material receivable balance owning from its customers. Yellow Mix Company. During the year-end audit, your team reviewed the aging of this balance and found that no payments had been received from Yellow Mix Company for over 6 months. 6 months, for last 6 months, no payments has been received. And Greenfield Company would not allow this balance to be included in the direct confirmation request also. So they are not even mentioning in the direct confirmation request. Instead, management has assured your team that they will provide a written representation confirming that the balance is recoverable. Do you think in this particular case, written representation is the sufficient and appropriate audit evidence? No, right? Because the other party is not agreeing to mention it. Then warranty provision. The warranty provision included within the statement of financial position is material. Okay. The audit team has performed tests on the calculations and assumptions which are consistent with prior years. The team has requested a written representation from management confirming the basis and amount of the provision are reasonable, and management has yet to confirm acceptance of this representation. Okay. Now, the question is, discuss the appropriateness of written representations as a form of audit evidence for the above two items and describe additional procedure that could be performed. This is a total question of 10 marks. I think 5 to 7 minutes should be sufficient for you to draft your answer. Please draft appropriately only, as in take one heading and draft both the answers for that, appropriateness of written representation as well as the additional procedures. Okay, and then take the second issue and then write both points for that also. So that is how you need to draft it. Please take 5 to 7 minutes, draft your answer, then we'll meet again. Yes, I hope it's done. Hope it's done. So now when we talk about the appropriateness of the written representation, let's discuss about each issue. So receivable balance owning from yellow mix company. Let's have our rereading again here. So have a material receivable balance. Okay. During the year end audit, your team reviewed the aging of this balance and found no payments have been done for over 6 months. And Greenfields company, that is our client, is not allowing us to mention this balance in the direct confirmation request. Instead, management has assured that your team not allow this balance to be included in direct confirmation and they will provide a written representation. Okay. Now the question is appropriateness of written representation as a form of audit evidence. See here, what matters is that when we talk about written representation, that is an additional, that is a corroborative form of audit evidence, that is evidence to an existing evidence, right? But here it could not happen that instead of the confirmation request we take a written representation. No, that is not appropriate first of all. Okay, so you have to write that it is not appropriate first of all to take management representation letter instead of a confirmation request for such a balance, specifically when there are still special features attached to it that no payment has been done for last 6 months. Okay, so that is very important. Now when we talk about the additional procedure that the auditor should perform, so first of all they should try to understand that why the payment has not been done, why the management is not allowing to enter into or to send a direct confirmation request for this particular point. Then our auditor should evaluate, is there any chance that management integrity might be compromised for this particular point? Is that a related party? That should also be evaluated over here. If related party, then the risk is further evaluated, further increased. Then we should also understand what are the evidences that are obtained from other sources of audit evidence. Say controls are effective, then what is the control reliance on this particular control? Okay, what are the other audit evidences that have been obtained? All of this that would be important for this. Now let's read this particular issue first. So the written representation proposed by the management is intended to verify valuation, existence and rights and obligations of a material receivable balance. As management has refused to allow the auditor to request direct confirmation of the balance, and there has been little activity on the account for the last 6 months, very little audit evidence has been obtained. Yes, that is true. Like we have discussed, this representation would constitute entity generated evidence, and that is less reliable than auditor generated evidence. So even if the management is providing the evidence, that is less reliable than the externally generated evidence. If related control systems operate effectively, then this evidence becomes more reliable, like we have discussed. In addition, if the representation is written as opposed to oral, then this will increase the reliability. So if the representation is not just verbal, if it is in written format, then it would further increase the reliability of it. Overall, this representation is a weak form of evidence, like we have discussed. Now, additional procedures for this particular issue: discuss with management the reasons why a confirmation request was refused, like we have discussed. Review the post year end period to identify whether any cash has now been received, that is the subsequent status. That we do for all provisions, for all outstanding balances, for all receivables, for everything that is further existed within say 2 to 3 months to maximum 6 months from the year end. Now review correspondence with yellow mix to assess reasons for continued non-payment. That is, you can get in touch with the relevant company yellow mix in this particular case to understand why they are not making the payment. Review board minutes and legal correspondence to assess whether there is any legal action, whether that amount is disputed or what. Discuss with management whether an allowance or write-off for credit losses is now required, and consider the implications for the audit opinion if the balance is considered to be materially misstated also. Perfect. Now let's go for the discussion of the second issue, which is the warranty provision. So the warranty provision included within the statement of financial position is material. The audit team has performed tests on the calculations and assumptions which are consistent with prior years. Okay, so they have already performed the test on the calculations and assumptions. The team has requested a written representation from management confirming the basis and amount of the provisions are reasonable. Management has yet to confirm the acceptance of this representation. See, in this particular case, the auditor has already performed the procedures. They have found everything to be accurate as per the last years. Also, there is no change also, and they are requesting it. Management has not yet denied it. So it is appropriate for the auditor to take this evidence. Although even if they take this evidence, this would again be an internally generated evidence only and would be lesser reliable than any external evidence. But since this is a provision, so in case of provision, any which ways, any external confirmation is very less available. a lot of times you have to look at your past historical data and evaluate the amount of provisions. So appropriate procedure is that you take a written representation. Now additional procedure what you can take, so you can recalculate, you can recalculate the amount of provision. You can check the past records whether there's any substantial change from the past records or what. You can also understand from the management what are the warranty claims that have been made during the relevant year and so on, right? So when we discuss about it, in this case, the auditor has performed some testing of the provision in order to obtain auditor generated evidence. The team has tested the calculations and assumption. None of this evidence is from an external source. These are internally generated only. The very nature of the provision means that it is difficult for the auditor to obtain a significant amount of reliable evidence like we have discussed. Hence, the written representation, whilst being an entity generated source of evidence, would still be useful as there are few other alternatives, but it will still be less reliable also. Now, additional procedures: review the post year end period to compare the level of claims actually made, that is, what is the subsequent status of it. Review the level of prior year provisions with the amounts claimed to assess the reasonableness like we have discussed, and review board minutes to assess whether there are any changes required to the level of provision as a result of an increased or decreased level of claims. Sometimes you might think that there is over provisioning that has been done, or under provisioning that has been done, and any changes are required based on that or not. Now the last question for this particular part, which is a 5-mark question, is explain the steps the auditor of Greenfields company should now take and the implications of the refusal to provide the written representation for the auditor's report. So what the auditor should, what steps should the auditor take now, and what are the implications of the refusal of written representation for the audit report? That is, if the management does not provide the written representation, what would be the major consequences on the auditor's report? And that is the main question for this one. So take 2 to 3 minutes, draft your answer in a rough manner, then we will discuss about it. Yes. Yes, hope it's done. Yes, hope it's done. Now, when we talk about the steps the auditor of greenfield company should now take is, first of all, they should try to understand that why the management is refusing to give the written representation. Okay, they should also have a possible reason to doubt on the integrity of the management. All of that, those points you should write under the steps the auditor should now consider. And the implications of the refusal to provide the written representation is that now auditor has grounds to give the modified opinion. But when we talk about this particular issue, this is material but not pervasive. It's not given in the question that it is pervasive. So we have to take an assumption over here. So the assumption that we should ideally take is that it is not pervasive because it is one account balance, right? So then we have to give the qualified opinion. And then when we will be modifying our opinion, we have to give details under the basis for opinion. That is the overall intention behind writing this particular answer. Now let's go and check. So when we talk about refusal to provide written representation on the warranty provision, so number one is discuss the matter with the management to understand why they are refusing. Okay, we have discussed it. Then this may have effect that this may have on the reliability of other representations and audit evidences in general. Okay, then they have to evaluate possible impact on the auditor's opinion also and reevaluate the integrity of the management also. Amazing. Now when we talk about the implications part, so to conclude that the warranty provision is free from material misstatement, a modified opinion will be required. Okay, since we are unable to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence, then since it is material but not pervasive, there they have not mentioned about the assumption because it was a warranty provision only. A qualified except for opinion would be appropriate, and basis for opinion section directly following the opinion will describe the reason for the modification as well. With this, we have completed this particular question, and now we can move to the third question. My dear friends, this third question is going to be a little different question because this is not a case study based question. This is a direct question, but still I will mark it as a very important question. Why so? Not because it is frequently asked in the examination, but this will give you certain information that is very much important for you to understand as well. So the auditor is required to request a letter of representation from the management of a client company as near as practicable to, but not after the date of the auditor's report, right? As near as practicable to the date of the auditor's report, but not after that on the financial statements. Now, first question is explain why the auditor obtains written representation. First question. Okay. Second, give 6 examples of matters to be included in the letter of representation in accordance with the international standards on auditing. We have already discussed these questions, right? Now explain why the request for written representation should be included in the audit engagement letter, right? Okay, and describe how the auditor should respond if management refuses to provide a written representation letter. We have discussed all of these points, but what I want is, since this is a 15 marks question, please take 5 minutes, just roughly write your answers specifically for this third one. This is something that you might not have covered so far. Please let me know when you are done. Then we will be going ahead. We'll just match our answers. We do not need any discussions on this. We will just match our answers, that whatever we have given the answer in question number 2, whether that matches with question number 3 or not, because the intention, the idea of writing the similarity of words is almost similar. Okay, so please take 5 minutes, draft your answer, then let me know. Then we'll go ahead, read this answer, and then we will be done with this chapter. Then we will be taking a 4 to 5 minutes break, and then we will be going for chapter number 21 also. Yes. Okay, I hope this was sufficient time. So let's discuss about the first question, which is explained why the auditor requires written representation. So what points you should write over there is that they believe that they have fulfilled their responsibility for the preparation of the financial statements and for the completeness of the information provided to the auditor. That is, these two things are required to be written in the financial statements, that they have prepared the financial statements appropriately and that they have fully, completely given information to the auditors. Are also obtained to support other audit evidences, like we have discussed. These are corroborative audit evidences. Okay. Now, examples of matters that could be included. So we have covered so many examples, but if I have to talk about certain examples, it would be those examples where we have to take the confirmation from the management regarding their intention. So acknowledgement of management responsibility for the financial statements preparation. Then management has provided the auditor with all relevant information and all transactions have been recorded and reflected in the financial statements. Then when we talk about other ISS, so a lot of times in other ISS there is a reference that is given to this particular ISA that written representation should be taken. So all information in relation to or allegations of fraud or suspected fraud affecting the financial statements have been disclosed to the auditor. All known instances of non-compliances or suspected non-compliance have been disclosed to the auditor and have been included when preparing the financial statements. Earlier one was given by ISA 240, that is fraud. ISA 2, this one is given by ISA 250, that is consideration of laws and regulations. Then the effects of uncorrected misstatements are material both individually and in aggregate, that is given by ISA 450. Then the methods, data and significant assumptions used in making accounting estimates are appropriate, that is given by ISA 540. And then all events subsequent to the date of the financial statements have been adequately adjusted or disclosed as per the requirement, that is given by ISA 560. Now, inclusion in the audit engagement letter. What could be included in the audit engagement letter? What is the exact question? Explain why the request for written confirmation of representation should be included in the audit engagement letter, right? So the similar pointers only, but in a little different manner. That management has fulfilled certain responsibilities that will be expected from the management, okay, to obtain evidences that is expected by this ISA or other ISS. If management will not acknowledge its responsibilities or agree to provide such representation, the auditor will be unable to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidences, because this is not just another audit evidence, this is also corroborative audit evidence for all other evidence, and written representation is the only evidence of testing the management's intention behind it. Now, written representations are requested from those responsible for the preparation of the financial statements as well. Depending on the entity's governance structure and relevant law or regulation, the responsible individual should be confirmed in the engagement letter that who will be responsible for preparing and presenting the financial statements. Now, auditor's response to the management refusal, we have already discussed about it, that what we have to do is we have to modify the opinion. If it is pervasive, then we'll go for adverse opinion or disclaimer of opinion. But if written representation is not provided, then disclaimer of opinion. If it is provided but it is wrong, then adverse opinion. Then when we talk about non-pervasive effects, then qualified opinion, and basis for opinion will be explaining the detailed scenario. Okay. Then the auditor must disclaim the opinion on the financial statements if no satisfactory resolution and management refuses to provide the representation letter. What if they provide but it is found to be defective? Then the adverse opinion would be provided if material impacts are there. With this, we have completed chapter number 20 as well, my dear friends. Now you should clap for yourself because you have completed a major chunk of the syllabus by now. Now, let's take a 5 minutes break and then we will be going for chapter number 21. But before going for the break, let me tell you that this is the first question of the chapter number 21. And then there's a second question also. But both of these questions are not very big questions. These are basic questions and these require a little bit of analysis as well. And then the third question is there. Okay. So these three questions are there. Sir, how many are we going to solve? We are going to solve the two questions. That is question number 1 and question number 3. We will be solving two questions. Question number 1 and question number 3. So what about question number 2? That is your homework. You can solve it at your end, and just in case if you require any such assistance from me, do feel free to let me know on my WhatsApp number as well. So let's take a 5 minutes break. Then we will be solving question number 1 and then question number 2 as well. Thank you. Okay, so now let's come back to chapter number 21 and let's solve question number 1 and question number 3 from this particular chapter. My dear friends, when we talk about question number 1, the question number 1 and this whole particular chapter is a little different chapter because it just not talk about the audit methodologies, but it also talks about the automation related to it. So the name of chapter number 21 is automated tools and techniques. So here, the discussion would not just be about assertions, audit procedures, and all, but it would be about using the technology while delivering these particular procedures. So, this scenario relates to three requirements. Delphic company is a wholesaler of household furniture such as chairs, tables, and cupboards for household purposes. Okay, the company buys the furniture from 6 major manufacturers and sells them to over 600 different customers. Oh my god! So, 6 major and then 600 later. Okay, the receivable balance includes customers owing up to $125,000 to smaller balances of about $5,000. Okay, so the bigger amounts also and lesser amounts also. That is the overall crux of the receivable balance. All with many different due dates for payments and credit limits. The information is stored on Delphic company's computerized accounting systems. You are the audit supervisor with Casual and Company, preparing the draft audit programs for the final audit of Delphic company. The audit manager has decided that you should use audit software to assist the audit of trade receivable balance. Computer staff at Delphic company are happy to help, although they cannot confirm completeness of system documentation and want that the systems have old operating systems in place, limiting file compatibility with modern programs. Okay, the change in audit approach has been taken mainly to understand or mainly to fully understand Delphic company's computer system prior to new internet modules being added next year. Okay, sorry. When Schedule and Company plans to use data analytic tools for the first time. So next year they are planning to use the data analytic tool as well the next time. To limit the possibility of damage to Delphic company's computer files, copy files will be provided by Delphic company's computer staff for the auditor to use with their own audit software. Okay, required. Explain 4 audit procedure that should be carried out using audit software on the receivables balance at Delphic company. For each procedure, state the reason for that procedure. So 4 procedure carried out for audit software to use audit software on the receivable balance and reason for that procedure. Then question number B is explain 3 potential problems of using audit software at Delphic company. For each problem, comment on how it might be resolved. So not just problems, how it will be resolved as well. And explain 3 users of data analytic tools in the audit of Delphic companies. 3 users of data analytic tools in the audit of Delphic company. My dear friends, let's go one by one. Okay, let's go one by one. So this question in total is of 20 marks, but the first question is of 8 marks only. So let's solve this one first. Explain 4 audit procedures that should be carried out using audit software on the receivable balance at Delphic company. For each procedure, state the reason for that procedure also. Please try to complete this one in 4 to 5 minutes. Yes, I hope the answer is drafted now. My dear friends, when we discuss about this particular answer, so what you should understand is the question is very, very clear. Audit software on the receivable balance, and we have already discussed about the receivable balance. It varies from $5,000 to $125,000 also, and along with that, we have to tell the reason also. So, cast the receivable. See, the audit procedures are similar. Only way of doing this, the way of doing this differs here. So, cast the list of receivable balance and agree the total with the balance of the receivable balance also, as in the total listing should match with the total in the financial statements also. Compare the balance on each receivable account with the customer's credit limit also, whether the amount has been exceeded or not. Say some customer has been given the amount of say $5,000, so whether there's a receivable balance up to 5,000 only or not. Calculate receivables days for each month and year to date. Then stratify receivables balances by monetary amount, that is stratify as in bring into a particular structure. Say we want ascending order, descending order, and so select a monetary unit sampling from one or more strata for further testing. Monetary unit sampling, as in you should select the key items for the testing. Then extract an aged receivable analysis, that is the aging analysis, to identify customers in breach of payment terms also. If somebody has been given a maximum time of say 30 days and their payment is due for more than 30 days, then they are in breach. Now the reasons for it, my dear friends. The first one, the casting, to ensure the completeness provision, right? I told you that assertion by assertion testing is very much required. Then compare the balance on each receivable account with the limit, why so, to check whether there is any violation of the system rules. Then calculate receivable days for each month and to obtain a profile trend to use in substantive analytical procedure also, whether anybody is crossing that particular limit. Stratify receivable balances by monetary amount. Stratify receivable balances by monetary amount to improve audit efficiency by allowing sampling sizes to be reduced, and select a monetary unit sampling to improve audit efficiency, and extract an aged receivable to use in determining the adequacy of trade receivable. Now, my dear friends, do you need to write the similar answer? Definitely not. Sir, how do we draft this answer? How do we draft this answer? That is a more important question. Solving is one part, but how do you draft this particular answer? That is very, very important for all of us to understand. So let's try to understand. Whenever you draft any particular question, specifically for audit related question, the audit tool related question, you have to give due importance to the technology also. This was not a technological question, the part A, because this was talking about audit procedures using the audit software only. So what we have done is we have told them that this procedure would be done and this is the reason why it would be done. But when we go to question number B, my dear friends, we will enter into a real problem, which is explain 3 potential problems of using audit software at Delphi company. For each problem, comment on how it might be resolved. So 3 problems that could be there, right? So there could be a problem that data might be processed inappropriately, or inappropriate data might be, or incorrect data might be processed, right? So all of these problems would be taken care of here. So number one is cost. The automated systems are very costly. Once you enter into a cost of integrating the automated system, it is much more costly than the human system, the manual system. Lack of software documentation is also there, that we have understood from the client that they do not have much of the documentation also. Changes to client system, it is about to be changed. We are also trying to integrate more systems into it. Outputs obtained, the audit manager needs to be very clear about what outputs they want to obtain and how they will be obtaining that. Otherwise the outputs would be there, but it will not serve the audit purpose. And use of copy files, as in the use of copy file means that the auditor will not be certain that these are the actual files, because there could be certain files that are not copied in the system, that are not provided to you, and there could be a completeness issue also. So let's understand in one line. The cost, setup cost would be substantial. The computer audit department cannot confirm that all the documentation is available. This confirms the view that use of audit software should be deferred until next year. Then changes to client system. The systems will change next year. This is almost certain to result in amendments in the software. So we will be incurring so much of cost this year, and then again it will be changed. Now outputs obtained. So the audit manager needs to be clear exactly what assertions are to be tested, so that the output is towards those assertions only. Otherwise we will be investing a lot of money, lot of time, but we will not be getting the audit comfort also. Use of copy files. The use of copy file means that the auditor will not be certain that these are the actual files used in the system. Now the most important part of these particular questions is the question number C. Why so, sir? See, if you check the marks, this is a 6 marks question, this was a 8 marks question, and this was again a 6 marks question. But this is some question where there is no particular data that is given in the case study. For these two particular questions, to answer these two particular questions, there was data available in the case study also. But for this, there is no data available in the case study. Explain 3 uses of data analytic tools in the audit of Delphi company. When this word is there, 3 uses, a lot of students misinterpret it, and they mention the 3 ways of which data analytic tools could be applicable over here, or can be applied over here. But that is not the question. The question is 3 uses of data analytics tools. 3 uses of data analytics tools. 3 uses. So 3 uses are: data mining techniques can be used to analyze historical transactional data. This we have understood during the chapter also. Predictive analysis also we have understood during the chapter. Network analysis also we have understood during the chapter. Text mining or on customer communications, that is emails and feedback forms, can be used to gauge customer sentiment also. We have discussed it during the overall discussion of chapter number 21. And then automated confirmation procedures can be used to streamline the confirmation process with customers. Now my dear friends, in this particular question, what is more important to understand is, this was a direct question of what could have been understood from the concept lecture also. But why I wanted to take it, so that you just give a one reading to this particular question, so that you know how to draft the answer for this automated tools and techniques. Now question number 2 is a homework question. You should solve it at your end, and just in case you face any trouble, my dear friends, please let me know. I would be happy to conduct a session to solve question number 2 with you again. But this is similar to what we have already solved. Now come to a little of newer question, a little bit of newer question, which is Walsh company. And my dear friends, this is the last question for today as well. This is a last question for today as well. Okay, Walsh company. Walsh company sells motor vehicle fuel, accessories and spares to retail customers from 25 garage shops. Walsh company sells motor vehicle fuel, accessories and spares to retail customers from 25 garage shops. The company has recently implemented a new computerized wages system. The company has recently implemented a new computerized wages system. Okay. Okay. The employees work a standard 8-hour day. Hours are recorded using a magnetic card system. A card reader identifies each employee as they arrive for work and as they leave. So there's a card. If I take the card of another employee, I could mark their attendance also. Hours worked are calculated each week based on the magnetic card system readings. Overtime is calculated as any excess over the standard hours work. Any overtime over 10% of standard hour is reported on a computer generated email to the financial accountant. If necessary, the accountant overrides overtime payments if the hours worked are incorrect. Calculations of statutory deduction and net pay are programmed, and payments are made directly into employees' bank accounts only. The only other manual check is that the financial accountant authorizes the net pay from Walsh company's bank account, having reviewed the list of wages to be paid. Okay. Provide 4 examples of audit test on Walsh company's wages system using audit software. What all tests you can perform using the audit software, and explain how the test data could be used in the audit of Walsh company's wages system. Test data is something that we have covered under the concept lectures also. So my dear friends, these questions are of 10 marks. Okay, take 5 minutes, draft your answer, then we will be understanding this particular response, and then we will be going ahead for the purpose of reading the answers as well. Please take 5 minutes, draft your answers first. Okay, so now let's discuss about the answer. So my dear friends, whenever there is a question on audit test on anything using the audit software, you should always draw the conclusion from the case study that is given. So here, when we talk about a particular case study, let's read line by line again, and then let's try to understand what all audit procedures could be done using the audit techniques or using the audit tools. Okay, so hours worked are calculated each week based on the magnetic card system. So we can recalculate this particular sheet that is auto populated using the card system. We can recalculate it. Overtime is calculated as any excess over the standard hours work. We can recalculate that particular calculation also. Any overtime over 10% of the standard hours is reported on a computer generated email to the financial accountant. So we can manually test it also. Test check could be done. Then if necessary, the accountant overrides overtime payments if the hours worked are incorrect. So we can check the approval to do that also. Calculations of statutory deductions and net pay are programmed and payments are made directly into the employee bank account. So we can reevaluate whether that is being made into the correct account at the correct amount at the correct time also. The only manual check is that the financial accountant authorizes the net pay from Walsh company's bank account. So that is also fine. Now when we talk about the test data, so test data could be used either in the live format also for one of the employees of the company also we can select, and then we can perform the test data, or what we can do is we can have a dummy data also outside the normal course of business, and then we can reevaluate whether this procedure is working appropriately or not. So these numbers are incorrect, my dear friends, really sorry. Okay, now when I talk about calculation checks, so there could be recalculation of net pay for a number of employees, reviewing the list of employees paid each week whether everybody has been paid or not, detecting unreasonable items, so reviewing the list of net wages for large or negative payments, detecting any breaches of system rules if any payment has been done outside the system, providing new analysis for analytical procedures, so calculating total wages for the year from the number of employees and average wages paid also. Completeness checks could also be there, whether all the employees have been paid or not. So if we write certain different terminologies, will we get the marks? Yes, you will get the marks. Now use of test data. So test data consists of data submitted by the auditor for processing through the client's computerized systems. The data can be processed during a normal processing live run or in a special run outside the normal course of cycle also. What we can do a dummy employee record on the wages master file and use a magnetic card to stimulate or simulate that employees working a certain number of hours, and then we can check whether all the reports are being appropriately generated or not. Now the agreement of these amounts provides appropriate evidence of the accuracy of recording and processing of wages software. With this, we have completed this particular chapter also. Now we will meet in the next session to discuss about the questions on chapter number 22 to chapter number 27, and these are going to be the most important questions, because here we are going to discuss about what we are going to discuss about the audit procedures, and this is one particular lecture that everybody has been waiting for. So my dear friends, if you liked this particular question solving session, hit the like button, subscribe to this particular channel, and if you are watching it on the app and you feel any queries, please feel free to let me know. I would be happy to discuss all the queries with you. If you are planning to solve any more questions, be it from BPP, Kaplan, or any other resources also, I would be happy to help you there. All the very best for your examination. Say got it for audit.